Live from the Scripps Studios, this is 10 News.
What the United States did yesterday should have been done long ago.
President Trump standing by his order to kill a top Iranian general.
The president is accusing Qasem Soleimani of plotting imminent and sinister attacks on Americans.
We took action last night to stop a war. We did not take action to start a war.
And Iran is now promising to retaliate. Good evening, I'm Steve Atkinson.
And I'm Lindsay Pena. In the wake of increased tensions, the U.S. is sending 3,000 more soldiers to the region. This is new video of troops from the 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, arriving in Kuwait.
We have team coverage of this still developing story. We begin with ABC's Trevor Ault.
The American drone strike, which killed top Iranian General Qasem Soleimani, already sending shockwaves around the world. The U.S. now sending 3,500 additional troops to the Middle East as President Trump praises what he sees as a military victory.
Last night, at my direction, the United States military successfully executed a flawless precision strike that killed the #1 terrorist anywhere in the world.
One U.S. official and a source familiar with the matter telling ABC Soleimani was planning a series of attacks across Lebanon, Iraq, and Syria. In Washington, the president's supporters lauding the swift action to strike.
The architect and chief engineer for the world's most active state sponsor of terrorism has been removed.
But world leaders are now urging caution, some fearing further escalation. The attack taking place at Baghdad International Airport, home of U.S. ally Iraq, and also now drawing condemnation from their prime minister as a breach of his country's sovereignty. Iranians taking to the streets as their supreme leader vows severe revenge against the United States, perhaps turning the thousands of American troops and intelligence workers in the region into targets. And some Democrats upset they weren't involved in the decision to strike, now concerned about the consequences moving forward.
This action may well have brought our nation closer to another endless war, exactly the kind of endless war the president promised he would not drag us into.
A major question now is not if, but how Iran will respond, possibly by attacking oil tankers or ships like the country was accused of doing last year, by launching a cyber attack against the United States, or by trying to take down a prominent American military or diplomatic official in retribution. Trevor Ault, ABC News, New York.
So American troops and their families are now bracing for potential escalation that could send them overseas. Our 10 News reporter Cassie Carlisle spoke with a local military expert about the tactical decision to eliminate the Iranian general and what's likely coming next.
It was a pretty chaotic situation.
Retired Colonel G.I. Wilson was in Iraq in 2005 and says not much has changed.
In the region, the Iranians have basically always been the boogeyman. They've been wanting to stir up trouble. They've been wanting to ferment instability, and as a result of that, of course, they can influence the region, take it over.
Top Iranian General Qasem Soleimani in Iraq when President Trump ordered the strike that took him out, a move Wilson says was necessary.
He was there to execute operations to kill Americans and many innocents as well.
Saying the attack was long overdue.
Previous administrations, to include the Bush administration, the Obama administration, allowed this general unbridled activity in the Middle East. And at some point, you have to stop that.
Wilson says the fallout from the attack could go one of two ways: hollow threats or real conflict.
Osama bin Laden was taken down. There was all kinds of threats made, and relatively nothing happened. Is there a potential for us to see attacks here in the homeland? Yes. Is there potential to see attacks on Americans overseas? Yes.
Adding, we need to be vigilant. For local military families concerned about the chance of deployment?
I mean, that's why many young men join the Marine Corps or any branch of service, so they can deploy. Probably an increased possibility of that. But also, I wouldn't focus totally on the Middle East. There are other parts of the world that I would pay attention to as well.
Saying North Korea is another threat Americans are facing. Cassie Carlisle, 10 News.
San Diego's lawmakers are reacting to the news of the deadly airstrike as well. Congressman Scott Peters says the act is a significant escalation of our ongoing conflict with Iran. It endangers the lives of Americans in the Middle East and around the world and may lead to war. Congresswoman Susan Davis says what is not clear is the Trump administration's justification for the strategy for the aftermath of this dangerous escalation.
And today we're hearing reaction from members of both the Iranian and Iraqi communities right here in San Diego. 10 News reporter Mimi Alcala is joining us live from downtown. And Mimi, many believe the airstrike was justified.
And Lindsay, although they say that they were surprised by this, they say it was a long time coming and that they agreed with the president's decision.
For the past few weeks, there were large demonstrations in Iran that the Iranian regime shut down the internet.
Iranian-American Bahram Mayer is a member of the Coalition for Democracy and Human Rights in Iran. As a human rights activist, his mission is all about peace, but he believes the targeted killing of Qasem Soleimani, a top Iranian military official, was justified.
Let's say I was not sad about hearing that, because this guy had committed a lot of crimes, not only in Iran, but throughout the Middle East, in Syria, in Lebanon, and in Iraq. So seeing him gone is certainly a relief.
As tensions flare in the Middle East and protests erupt, here in San Diego, we also heard from the Iraqi community.
President Trump, he have done absolutely the right thing.
The Department of Defense says Soleimani was developing plans to attack American diplomats and service members throughout the region and blames him for the deaths of hundreds of U.S. troops in Iraq over the years. They also say he was behind the strike that recently killed an American contractor.
I think this is something that the regime has brought onto itself by, attacking the ships in the Persian Gulf, by attacking the U.S. drones, by attacking the Saudi Arabia refinery, and finally by killing the American contractor.
Now, there are fears that another war will begin if Iran does in fact retaliate, and this is prompting a national day of action tomorrow. Here in front of the federal courthouse in San Diego, there will be a protest that will begin at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We're live downtown. Mimi Alcala, 10 News.
I'm Jennifer Kastner in the 10 News Live Center tonight. We've got some breaking news. A new airstrike north of Baghdad has killed 5. There is an image of the attack posted on foxnews.com. You can see all of those flames there. All 5 killed were Iran-backed militia members. The strike comes just 24 hours after the U.S. airstrike killed multiple people, including the head of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. In the Live Center tonight, Jennifer Kastner, 10 News.
Stocks pulled back from their strong start to the new year following escalating tensions there in the Middle East. The Dow Jones dropped 233 points, its worst day in 4 weeks. The Nasdaq fell 71 points. The S&P lost 23. While stocks retreated, oil prices surged more than 3% to $63 a barrel. Analysts are concerned that the airstrikes will lead Iran to retaliate by restricting the flow of oil in the Middle East or potentially attacking production sites. And experts say the markets will be volatile for weeks to come. Coming up tonight on 10 News at 6, how yesterday's attack has already affected mortgage rates.
A Ramona family living with a painful loss for 30 years is at last on a path toward closure. The man accused of gunning down their loved ones was tracked down in Mexico and just answered to a judge.
Team 10 investigator Adam Rakusin was there as we heard from the family for the very first time. Adam.
And Steve, it's hard for family members to be around this. The brother of the man who was killed had a hard time even seeing this accused killer in court today. He says he just wants justice for his family.
In court, Jose Solorio didn't say much, only giving short responses through an interpreter when asked direct questions by the judge.
Is that okay with you, sir?
Sí. Yes. Solorio's accused of shooting and killing Germán and Ventura Aviles back in 1987. Prosecutors say Solorio was 27 at the time. Authorities say the family was having a birthday party for their 4-year-old daughter when Solorio, one of the guests, got into an argument with several people. They say Solorio left the party for a short time and returned with a gun. After the shooting, authorities say Solorio ran to Mexico and remained there for more than 3 decades. That's until the FBI, U.S. Marshals, and Mexican authorities found him, bringing him back to the U.S.
My aunt that she told that mainly she called us and she told us they turned on the TV. They caught the guy who killed your guys' brother, and so that's what we did. And
This is Jesus Aviles. He agreed to speak to us on behalf of his grandfather, Enrique. He says Enrique lost his brother and nephew.
He wants justice made and wants him put in jail for what he did to our family.
Jesus says since the arrest, the incident has constantly been on his grandfather's mind.
Happy that he got caught, but mainly he wants him in prison.
And a judge set another court hearing for March. Solorios pleaded not guilty. After court, Solorios' attorney told me they don't have a comment at this time. Reporting live in the newsroom, Adam Merkusen, 10 News.
Thank you, Adam.
All right, a sexually violent predator is set to be released in Jacamba Hot Springs, but not before the public has a chance to comment. According to the Sexual Assault Felony Enforcement, or SAFE, task force, a hearing for the release of Michael Polsom is set for 1 month from now. Polsom was convicted in the 90s of lewd and lascivious acts with a child under 14. A public hearing will be at the downtown courthouse on February 3rd at 9 in the morning.
We have a follow-up now to a story we told you about back in October. The skeletal remains of a body found at Mount Williamson by a San Diego hiker have been identified. The Inyo County Sheriff's Department says the remains are that of Gichi Matsumura. Matsumura was a Japanese-American artist being held at the Manzanar Japanese internment camp during World War II. He was with a group of fellow inmates out fishing in August 1945 when a freak storm hit and he died. His granddaughter provided the DNA that confirmed his identity. The San Diegan youth pastor that found him had hoped the discovery would bring closure.
I'm kind of honored to be a part of kind of helping uncover this mystery, because that's what it is. That gives me a lot of joy knowing that someone's going to get that closure.
The Matsumura family says it was a rediscovery. They knew the story of Gichi, but the exact location of his grave had been lost to time.